I opened the email expecting spam, or maybe something routine, a company newsletter or a policy update. What I got was colder than anything I'd ever felt. Subject line, pension freeze notice, effective immediately. No greeting, no explanation, just a few dead sentences from HR saying my pension had been temporarily frozen pending internal review. That was it. No phone call, no heads up, no signature. I sat there in my kitchen, robe half wet from the shower, toast still in the toaster, never pressed down. I read the email twice, 3 times. Like maybe it would change, maybe it would grow a conscience. After 30 years, that was it. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? My name's Dale. I'm 62 years old. I live just outside of St. Louis, Missouri. I was one of the original 3 people who built Stratagrowth out of a rented strip mall office and folding tables. We printed our first contracts on a used Dell. I worked holidays, built vendor relationships from scratch, even floated payroll out of my own savings more than once. And now, some intern in HR just nuked my future with a 4-sentence auto email. I sat there, stunned. My coffee was going cold. My knee started bouncing. That old habit from board meetings I thought I'd killed years ago. Then I heard it. A clip from the investor call playing from the Alexa on the counter. Brent, our CFO, was talking. His voice fake casual like always. He said, "We had a minor accounting blip with a few legacy pensions, but nothing material. A blip. Like he was talking about a paper jam." That was when it hit me. They weren't just cutting my pension. They were cutting me. Quietly, surgically, like I'd never been there. Like I was just another line on a spreadsheet. I got up, walked barefoot across the cold tile floor, and reached up to the cabinet above the fridge, the one nobody touches. Pulled down the old binder, black leather, heavy. Founders Agreement, 1994. I flipped through pages, tabs, decades. There it was. Clause 14D. Barely remembered it until now. In the event of any material reduction in executive compensation, the undersigned shall be entitled to a severance payment in the amount of $25,000. Still there, still signed, still binding. I didn't call, I didn't yell, I didn't ask for explanations. I opened my laptop, typed 5 words in a new message. To Strata Growth Legal Subject, Clause 14D activated, then I hit send. Charles called exactly 14 minutes after I sent the email. His voice was tight, clipped, like someone had tied a rope around his windpipe. Clause 14D is active, he said. I reviewed the original doc. It's untouched. No amendments, no voids, no loopholes. I stayed quiet. Let him breathe a second. You want me to send formal notice? He asked. No, not yet. I reached for the kettle, calm as Sunday. I want them to put something stupid in writing first. Let them make the first mistake. I could practically hear his eyebrows go up through the phone. You're playing this slow. I'm not playing anything, I said. I'm waiting. 3 hours later, Brent replied. Subject line, Clause 14D activated. Body, Clause 14D was nullified in the 2014 executive restructure. No action will be taken. I almost laughed. I remembered that restructure. I'd walked out of that meeting, told them I wouldn't sign. Never did. They'd logged a blank signature page and hoped I wouldn't notice 12 years later. He thought I was old and slow. He forgot I kept paper. I didn't respond. I forwarded the email to Charles with one line. I never signed anything in 2014. The next morning, I was copied on an internal thread by mistake. It was from a junior associate named Malene, probably fresh out of law school, still green enough to CC the wrong Dale in a reply all. Per Clause 14D review, no amendment filed, and Dale's signature is missing from the 2014 package. Clause is enforceable under current agreement. There it was, written in plain English, from their own legal team. I flagged it, saved it, archived it in 3 places, printed 2 copies, one for my files, one for Charles. From that point on, I got to work building my war chest. I pulled old hard drives out of storage bins in the garage, dug through backups from dead laptops, found the original founder agreement PDF, metadata intact, every signature page, every rejected amendment, email trails confirming I opted out of the 2014 changes, timestamps, contracts, originals, digitals, all clean, all airtight. Then I waited. At the office, things shifted fast. You could feel it in the air. That static hum of people trying to pretend they're not watching you. Meetings got rescheduled without warning. People smiled too tight. Avoided eye contact in the break room. The guy who used to talk college football with me every Monday wouldn't even nod. Brent started pacing the halls like a rat looking for an exit. Never made eye contact, never said a word. I didn't flinch, didn't give them an inch. I watered the plant in the corner of my office, same one I'd had since the move to the new building in 2011. Took calls with clients like nothing was off, reviewed vendor invoices, answered compliance emails. I even brought in donuts that Friday. Sat at my desk, sipping Earl Grey like it was any other damn morning. You know the look people get when they know something's coming, but don't know when? That stiff smile, that polite but terrified nod in the hallway. That's what I saw every time I walked the floor. They were running scared, and I hadn't even said a word yet. 2 days after the donuts, I caught the first real scent of panic. It pinged me about archived HR drives I hadn't touched in years. They wanted admin clearance to update permissions. I built those servers myself back when we still used physical blades, and nobody but me had root access. I said sure, then watched where they poked. They were snooping in severance logs, pension documentation, and old payroll histories, all connected to the years I was in charge. Every folder they opened had my fingerprints on it. That's when I knew the legal team had taken the gloves off. Same morning, a longtime vendor pulled out of a quarterly renewal. His email was polite, loaded with corporate spin, unstable outlook, reviewing partnerships, holding pattern until Q4. But I knew what it meant. Word was leaking. Then came the voicemail. Hey Dale, it's Travis. Listen, I know this is awkward, but you might want to, I don't know, just double check your end. There's talk. Not specifics, but risk exposure. You didn't hear this from me. I hadn't spoken to Travis in a year, and we'd been tight since dial-up. If he was leaving messages like that, something big was shifting. After that, I started prepping the final dossier. This wasn't about theatrics. I wasn't getting ready for a dramatic showdown. I was just lining up the truth so clean they couldn't wiggle out from under it. I built it by hand, folder by folder, the founder's agreement, clause 14D, amendments, email rejections, meeting notes, voicemails, server logs, internal comms where execs acknowledged the clause as recently as 2 years ago, even the damn toner receipts from the day I printed the original contract. It wasn't revenge, it was readiness. While I worked, the company kept up the act, like some sick theater show where everyone's sweating in their suits but pretending the AC's working fine. People still nodded in the halls but wouldn't stop walking. Nobody asked about the pension freeze. Not one person said the word severance. Every director suddenly had an off-site, or was OOO until next week. Brent hadn't been on the floor in days, but his name kept showing up on forwarded threads, and his calendar was now blank. That was when I knew I'd already won. They just didn't know how bad yet. Charles called me at 9:47 on a Wednesday, voice low like he was in a church. "You sitting down?" he asked. I leaned back in my chair, still holding the pen I'd been using to mark invoices. "I'm always sitting down, Charles. What have you got?" "Anonymous leak," he said. "Internal Slack screenshots. Brent calling you too old to fight this in court." He paused. "It's bad. Looks like compliance flagged it, but it slipped out first." I put the pen down. "Send it to me." Within a minute it was in my inbox. Black on white chat bubbles, time stamped. Brent's username plain as day. "Clause 14D is dead weight. He's too old to fight this. Let it rot out." That was all I needed. No speeches, no drama. I opened a new email. To Strata Growth Board of Directors. Subject, Clause 14D. One paragraph, polite but lethal. Attached is a screenshot from an internal Slack conversation involving CFO Brent McClary. If payment under Clause 14D is not processed by Friday, we will proceed with legal escalation and seek all available remedies under Missouri contract law. This is your formal notice. I attach the file. Hit send. Close the laptop. Less than an hour later, Brent vanished. His Slack account went gray. Email bounced back with an automated message. Calendar wiped. The CFO who'd been strutting through earnings calls 2 weeks ago was now a digital ghost. The next morning, HR sent out a company-wide memo about temporary leadership adjustments. No mention of Brent, no signature at the bottom. By lunchtime, I got word from Charles. They've hired outside counsel, NYC firm, big one. I sipped my tea. Of course they did. They're going to stall, Charles warned. They'll posture, send scary letters, try to claw back leverage. Let them, I said. We're already holding the knife. We didn't wait for their letters. That afternoon, Charles filed the injunction. Court-stamped, public, airtight. The board got a copy before the outside lawyers even responded. By the next day, I started noticing something new. Files disappearing. Internal documents mentioning pension freeze, or clause, were getting locked down by compliance. Shared drives grayed out. Links dead. People's access revoked mid-meeting. They were building a wall, and they were already behind it. Directors who'd been off-site for weeks started showing up on calls looking pale, asking weak questions about exposure and public optics. They'd muted their mics, but forgot the cameras showed them whispering to someone off-screen. The investor chatter followed almost instantly. First one email from a fund manager I knew in Chicago. Is there instability at Stratagrowth? Then a second from a regional bank analyst. We're hearing about a pension clause issue. Can you comment? I didn't answer any of them. I didn't need to. Inside Stratagrowth, it stopped feeling like a company and started feeling like a bunker. Doors shut, phones muted, legal teams hiding behind NDA walls. They weren't fighting me anymore. They were trying to survive. Charles called again late that night. They're cornered, he said. You sure you don't want to push for settlement talks now? Not yet, I said. They set the clock. We're just watching it tick. I stood at the window, looking out at the streetlights and the empty parking lot below. In the reflection, my face was calm, hands steady, heartbeat even. I poured another cup of tea and sat down at the table, waiting for the next move. By Friday at 5:01 p.m., nothing had hit my account. No wire, no notice, no apology. Stratagrowth had officially missed the 72-hour payout window. Clause 14D wasn't vague about that part. It had teeth, sharp ones. 3.2% compound interest, daily. Charles didn't call this time. He just sent a 2-word text. Clock's ticking. 15 minutes later, he filed the legal default notice. Stamped, signed, and delivered to every board member's inbox. It was official. They were in breach. That same night, an internal memo leaked. After thoughtful reflection, Brent McClary has chosen to resign his position as Chief Financial Officer to pursue personal opportunities. Personal opportunities? Sure, like disappearing into a non-extradition country and deleting LinkedIn. I didn't respond. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even move. Outside the window, a couple of blue jays hopped around the feeder I'd cleaned out the weekend before. Birds didn't care about lawsuits. Inside the company, everything was shutting down. Compliance locked the gates tight. Not just files, full access. Financial accounts froze up. Badge swipes stopped working. Contractors got locked out of shared platforms mid-project. Someone tried to book a vendor lunch that Monday, and the corporate card declined. That's when rumors started hitting Slack. I didn't need to dig anymore. The mess was taking shape without me touching a thing. The legal team started chasing their own tails. Every dock they opened led to another locked server, another compliance freeze, another missing chain of command. I could feel the panic in their silence. Not one call, not one reply. I was the line of code they forgot to delete, the clause they skimmed past. The backup drive no one thought still worked. Now I was everywhere, in their inboxes, their ledgers, their legal risks. I didn't show up. I didn't storm the gates. I just stayed home, in my robe, in my kitchen, letting interest accrue like morning frost on glass. They wanted quiet. Well, they got it, but not peace, not relief. No. What they got was a quiet explosion, and they never even heard the click before the detonation. Saturday morning, Charles forwarded me an internal memo he wasn't supposed to have. Subject line, urgent, credit line freeze, immediate action. Required attached, 1-scan PDF from Wellspring Bank's Commercial Lending Division. There it was in black and white, Stratagrowth's $80 million line of credit frozen. Effective immediately. Buried deep in their financing agreement was a trigger clause. If any executive severance breach exceeded $25 million, the line froze until the bank conducted a full audit. Clause 14D had just tripped their landmine. That's when the bleeding started. First came the payment stalls, a dozen invoices flagged, processing error. Then came the missed payroll cycles, salaries split in half, bonuses postponed, contractors dropped overnight without warning. By Monday, vendors were gone. Not calling, not asking, gone. Projects vaporized midstream, cloud services suspended. A freight delivery from Denver turned around mid-route. I didn't need to make a single phone call. The blood was already in the water. Emergency board meetings started stacking up like fender benders, some in person, some Zoom. One invite accidentally hit my old calendar alias, still live after all these years. The subject line said it all. Urgent, legal, plus financial fallout, discussion only. The CFO seat stayed empty. No replacement, just silence. They tried floating a few PR lines on Twitter. Ongoing restructuring, internal review of legacy agreements. But the story broke faster than they could plug the holes. Founder's clause cripples strata growth. 25 modelers contract breach sparks financial spiral. Pension freeze backfires on Missouri tech firm. One headline had my old company photo from the 90s next to Brent's smirking headshot. That one stung, not for me, but because I knew it had to be killing them. I said nothing, not to reporters, not to former co-workers, not even to Charles. That Tuesday, the layoffs hit. 57 workers let go. Some of them I hired myself. Good people, young, blameless. One of them texted me, just 4 words. "You still out there?" I didn't respond. It wasn't personal. It was math. Cold, contractual compliance. And if they'd followed the agreement they signed, not one job would have been touched. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my old leather notebook. I hadn't written in it in a while. Still had the bookmark from last year's planning session. I flipped to a clean page and wrote in block letters. They wanted me quiet. I gave them contractual compliance. No bitterness, no gloating, just truth, written in ink. The company I helped build was crashing, not because of noise, but because they forgot contracts don't expire just because your memory does. I didn't sleep much that week, not from stress, but from interest. I started monitoring their investor calls, not officially, just backdoor links and old calendar logins that never got shut off. That's the thing about digital systems. They only forget you if someone tells them to. One call had a shared doc titled Contingency Wire Scenarios. I clicked it open, calm as ever. 3 pages of internal panic dressed up as strategic response options. Bullet point 2. Full payout to former exec, W interest to mitigate further legal deterioration. They didn't even use my name, just former exec. Like avoiding it would soften the blow. Friday came, another deadline, another chance to make it right. And once again, they missed it. Let it slide by like it was just another overdue invoice. That weekend, I didn't move much, just read, kept quiet, kept watching. Charles texted Saturday night, "They're sending someone new. CFO name's Jeremy, younger, clean." Monday morning, 9:06 a.m., my phone buzzed from Jeremy Blake. Subject, Clause 14D, Final Wire Transfer. Mr. Hayes, on behalf of Strata Growth, I'd like to extend a formal apology for the delay and mismanagement surrounding Clause 14D. A wire transfer in the full amount of $25,000 plus accrued interest has been executed. Confirmation attached. We understand this resolution is overdue and regret the circumstances that led to this outcome. Please accept this as a final resolution. No further action will be required. Respectfully, Jeremy Blake, Chief Financial Officer, Strata Growth, Inc. I opened the PDF. One clean line confirming the full payment had landed. Seconds later, Charles sent me a text. It cleared, and then some. I didn't respond. Didn't need to. I just set the phone down, finished my tea, and went upstairs to pack. Took the old green duffel from the closet, tossed in a pair of jeans, a thermal, a flashlight, and the leather notebook. The truck was already gassed up. I didn't tell anyone. No message, no status update. I just drove. Upstate, 3 hours from the city. A 1-lane gravel road through trees that knew how to keep secrets. The cabin sat on a slope, facing a lake that didn't have a name on Google Maps. I hadn't been there in years, not since before the company had real money. The key was still under the warped floorboard on the porch. I walked in, flicked on the breaker, and let the silence wrap around me like a second skin. No buzz, no inbox, no damn clause 14D hanging in the air. Just wind, wood, and water. I dropped the duffel on the old leather couch, grabbed my notebook, and stepped out onto the dock. The lake was glass. The air smelled like pine and old stone. I sat at the edge, feet hanging over, and opened to a fresh page. Took my time writing it. No drama, no speech. They built the company on my back. I left with what I was owed. No more, no less. Then I closed the book, leaned back, and let the wind carry off the rest. The next morning, I woke up to birds and wind. No phone vibrating, no Slack pings, no calendar chimes, just quiet. I made coffee on the old stovetop burner and stepped out onto the porch. The air was sharp, that early fall bite that cuts through flannel. Somewhere nearby, I caught the scent of burnt pine from the old fire pit, maybe days old, still hanging in the breeze like the woods didn't want to let go of it yet. Inside the cabin, there was no cell signal, no Wi-Fi, no headlines. But I knew they were out there. Strata growth was bleeding in every media feed from New York to San Francisco. Charles had warned me the press would catch on eventually. And now they were feasting. Founder's clause, fallout. When loyalty has teeth. The silence that cost $32 million. I didn't read the articles, didn't watch the clips, let them say whatever they wanted. I wasn't there anymore. Not geographically, not emotionally. I was up here, in the trees, far from all of it. The notebook sat open on the cabin table. One more page left. I flipped through the rest. Dates, signatures, clause references, names underlined, quotes highlighted. Every note a memory, some made of fire, others made of spreadsheets. I didn't hate them, not anymore. I just didn't care. That was the part they never understood. They thought silence meant surrender, that if I didn't rant, or show up at their front doors, or light them up on social media, I was done. They forgot who built the damn place. They forgot who buried the wires under the floorboards. They forgot I was the one who named the damn company. They thought I'd go quietly, and I did. Just not the way they expected. I didn't scream, I didn't sue, I didn't threaten, I enforced. And now they remember me, not for the noise I made, but for the silence that destroyed them.